Let me just bring in Narayana Murthy here. Sorry, Arun, I'll just come back to you. Murthy, Arun Shourie makes a point that the last 6 months the government has done something. 4 or 5 reform measures, pretty high risk. Now there are about 5 other things still pending, which he mentions in the speech, just touches the DTC, the CSD, all these various bills, that the pension bill, the insurance bill. So there are 2 ways to look at this budget. Should we look at it as a missed opportunity where the government could give a signal, or do we look and say, look, it's just part of many different policies and the budget is overrated?
Well, first of all, there are 2 sides to this budget. In keeping with the UPA's objective of making life better for the poor and the downtrodden, the finance minister has increased allocation towards health care, education, towards food security, towards urban housing, a women's bank, microfinance, SIDBI, all of that.
Right.
I think on all those counts, while I agree with Arun that we need to focus on the big picture and also the fact that we started off very well in September. The reality is that we have set a good trend. On the other hand, as Naina pointed out, we have to see whether we can indeed achieve the growth rate that we want to justify or to make sure that we have this 19.5% extra money for expenditure.
Right. Do you find that's credible?
That is where I had expected that, well, when you have a brilliant man like Chidambaram and when you have another brilliant person like Raghuram Rajan as his chief economic advisor, I am sure they have thought about it carefully. But as Naina pointed out and as Arun pointed out, there are so many uncertainties.
Right.
And let's all hope that the government will indeed achieve that growth rate, and whatever needs to be done to achieve that growth rate, we will all work hard.
Do you think, Murthy, that sometimes it's like the good old spreadsheet, you end up saying, look, I want 4.8%, keep tampering with the percentages of revenue and expenditure, but get me 4.8% fiscal deficit?
Well, all of us who have, including you, who have done all this budgeting in our companies, we know it always starts like that.
That spreadsheet, I think you software guys, guys with the spreadsheet have ruined the world.
Well, you are a brilliant man, so I can't argue with you.
No, Arun wants to say something.
We all need it. We all need that.
Sir, I think just one point on your hope for growth being 6.7% and therefore revenue buoyancy being that much. Firstly, on the expenditure side, we must wait. People are not going to believe just a budget figure.
You're going to see it actually unfold.
Unfold, because just wait till September for the supplementary grants and what happens after that. Second thing, sir, is that, one of the reasons why the stock market had this 5% spread today was that when they saw that these revised estimates have gone down so much,
right,
and also the revenue growth is much less than anticipated, it shows that in the 4th quarter the growth figure will be 4%.
Yes, it is. Let me get to the youngest man who always has to be asked last.
And therefore from 4%...
Oh, we've also got Praful here, but even younger than Praful, Jyotiraditya Scindia. Power is crucial, a lot of emphasis on infrastructure, which was a good sign. But does India have the money for it? That's what we are wondering. How do the numbers add up? How do you see it?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think to restart the growth cycle, you have to look at investment. And let me say this, that within the investment cycle, close to about 40% of capex is driven by my sector, which is power.
Right.
And what you need to do to make that happen is $1 trillion requirement today, of which close to about 47% has to come from the private sector. Let's also remember that this is a sector, unlike services, which requires a high degree of leverage. And the debt markets and the bond markets in India aren't close enough to where they need to be in terms of depth. Right. So I think the finance minister has taken a very strong step towards the creation of a much more robust debt market through institutional networks, through increasing the tax-free bond level from 25,000 crores to 50,000 crores, particularly for the highway sector, setting up a regulatory authority, for the power sector, extending Section 80AI, IA, so that people can get a depreciation benefit over the next 10 years for those who set up their power plants. So many steps have been taken. Off-budget items are also high on the agenda. The Cabinet Committee on Infrastructure, of which I am a part, Pranoy, has met twice in the last month and a half. We've actually given the green signal for very large infrastructure projects. Case in point for you, in my sector, North Karanpura, which had been hanging fire for almost about 12 to 14 years, has now been approved. We're talking about a 15,000 crore investment by NTPC alone. So I think the agenda is very clearly spelt out for manufacturing. The fact that an investment allowance has been created for any company that invests greater than 100 crores, a 15% additional depreciation surcharge. So an impetus has been given. But let me say this to the people who are worried about the fisc and the inclusive agenda. India needs a high growth path with an inclusive approach. And I think that's what the finance minister has articulated. The 11th plan has had a growth rate of greater than 8%.
Tell me a few steps you're going to take.
There are apprehensions there.
In your sector, in the power sector, which, as you say, is so crucial, and you've got independent charge of your ministry. Few key steps you're going to take to make sure we really have a push in the power sector.
Well, we've already started in right earnest, Pranoy, and if you look at the whole, the key fundamental is that you need to make the whole value chain remunerative. And there are four distinct portfolios in that value chain. Generation, transmission, distribution, and then the last mile. On the generation side, there's a key issue of bringing into place commissioning of plants. In the last 100 days, we bought on target commissioning and commissioned close to about 4.5 gigs of plants. For this fiscal, we'll be closing 31st of March at 17 gigs. There is an issue of fuel shortage. We've cleared out all the issues on the FSAs with the coal ministry. Close to 29 gigs out of the 60 gigs have been signed. NTPC will sign another 15 gigs in the next 2 weeks or so, and the private sector will follow. On the issue of coal shortage, which is apparent, because the power sector gets 377 MTPA of coal, almost a 20% shortage, the cabinet has taken an in-principle decision to allow coal price pooling. The mechanics of that is being developed in an iterative process, going back to the comment that you made on spreadsheets by me and the finance minister along with the coal minister, and we'll have a constructive model in place in the next week to 10 days, which we will approve. The key issue here in this sector is distribution, and I think Naina will bear me out on this. The financial health of the DISCOMs is priority number one for me as power minister.
Okay, that's
the financial health of the DISCOMs needs to be rejuvenated. They have a cumulative loss of close to 92,000 crores, a short-term liability of 1,90,000 crores, and that's why we put the financial restructuring package in place, which the finance minister alluded to in his speech. Close to about 8 states have committed to coming on board. We're restructuring their short-term liabilities of close to 140,000 crores. And unlike the last time, where it was just a bonus, here we're actually making them accountable, because 50% of those liabilities will be taken on to the books of those respective state governments.
Right.